You know those days when you have absolutely no plans? The kind of day where you just stay in bed a little longer, maybe scroll through your phone, eat breakfast slowly, and think, I'll just see what happens? Well, that was the kind of day I thought I was going to have. No alarms, no deadlines, nothing on the calendar. But I had no idea that something much bigger, something I couldn't control, was already waiting for me. It was like the day had a secret plan, and I was about to walk right into it. It started when I finally got out of bed and went to the kitchen. I wasn't in any hurry. I made a cup of tea, opened the window to feel the morning breeze, and let the sunlight warm my face. Everything felt calm. My phone buzzed, but it wasn't a message or a call. It was just a notification from a weather app. I didn't even check it. After breakfast, I decided to take a walk. No real reason, just needed some fresh air. I put on some old sneakers, grabbed a tote bag, and left my apartment. I didn't even lock the door behind me right away. I stood outside for a moment, looking up at the sky. It was one of those perfectly blue skies. No clouds. The kind that makes you feel like something is about to happen, even if you don't know what. I started walking, no destination in mind. Just letting the streets lead me. At the end of my block, I turned left, even though I usually go right. I don't know why. I guess it just felt right. That's when I noticed a woman standing near a bench, struggling with a heavy bag. She looked like she needed help. Without thinking too much, I walked over and asked if she was okay. She smiled, clearly relieved, and asked if I could help her carry the bag to a nearby building. I said sure, of course. It wasn't far, and she seemed sweet. When we reached the building, she thanked me and handed me a small envelope. She said, "This is for you. Don't open it yet. Wait until the time feels right." I was confused, but I smiled and took it. I slipped it into my bag and forgot about it almost immediately. As I walked away, I thought about getting coffee. I turned another corner and saw a cafe I'd never noticed before. It was tucked between two bookstores and had the most beautiful hanging plants around the entrance. I stepped inside. It was quiet, warm, and smelled like cinnamon and roasted beans. I ordered something I'd never tried before, just because I felt like taking a small risk. While waiting, I noticed a board by the counter. It had notes pinned to it, little pieces of paper with questions, thoughts, and poems written by strangers. One of them caught my eye. It said, "You are exactly where you're supposed to be." I stared at it for a long time. Something about that message felt connected to my day. I sat by the window with my drink and watched the people walking by. It felt peaceful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being guided somehow. Like every turn I took was part of some invisible map. And then, I remembered the envelope. The one from the woman with the heavy bag. I pulled it out and opened it slowly. Inside was a folded piece of paper with a handwritten note. It said, "Follow the sound of water. Don't think. Just go." What? Follow the sound of water? I looked around the cafe. No one was watching me. No one seemed to be part of this strange little message. But for some reason, I stood up, left my drink behind, and walked out. I listened carefully. At first, I didn't hear anything. Just cars and birds. But after a minute of walking toward the park, I began to hear something faint. A trickling sound. Water. I followed the sound through a narrow path I'd never noticed before. It led behind a row of houses, through a wooden gate that wasn't locked, and finally into a small hidden garden. There was a little fountain in the center. Nothing special, just a quiet place, overgrown with plants and flowers. But what caught my eye was the girl sitting on the bench near the fountain. She looked up and smiled like she'd been expecting me. I didn't know her. I'd never seen her before. But she looked at me like she knew exactly who I was. She stood, walked over, and handed me a folded newspaper. Then she said, "Page 7, and walked away. I opened it. Page 7 was a community events section. One event was circled in red pen. It said, "Open mic poetry night, today only, free entry, 5th and Maple Street." Now here's the thing, I don't read poetry. I don't go to open mics. I don't even know where 5th and Maple Street is. But at that point, I had already followed a series of strange signs, and something inside me said, "Keep going." So I looked it up and started walking. It took about 15 minutes, but when I arrived, the door to a small art gallery was open. Inside, soft music played. A few people stood around with cups of tea and notebooks in their hands. The kind of place that feels like a warm hug for your soul. Someone greeted me at the door, smiled, and asked, "Are you here to read?" I laughed nervously and said, "No, I'm just here to listen." I sat near the back and listened as one person after another walked up to the mic and read something from their heart. It was beautiful, honest, sad, funny, real. At one point, someone read a poem that made me cry. I don't even know why. Maybe because I didn't expect it. Maybe because I hadn't cried in weeks. Maybe because, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. After the event ended, I stayed behind. I looked around the gallery. One painting on the wall caught my eye. It showed a long winding path through a forest, with tiny lights hanging above it like stars. I looked at the title. It was called "The Day with No Plans." I smiled. A woman next to me turned and said, "Funny name, right?" I nodded and said, "Actually, it makes perfect sense." I walked out of the gallery and into the warm evening air. I didn't rush home. I didn't check my phone. I just walked. And as I walked, I thought about how strange the day had been. How each moment had led to the next, like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't even known I was holding. Maybe it was all random. Maybe it wasn't. But one thing was certain. The day had plans for me, even when I didn't. You just listened to a full English story, without realizing how much you were learning. You picked up new vocabulary, natural expressions and sentence patterns, just by letting the story take you on a journey. Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever had a day where everything felt perfectly timed, even without a plan? What happened? Let me know below, and don't forget to follow for more stories every single day.